Golf Central on YouTube is brought to you by the new Chrome Tour golf ball from Callaway.
Club Anna Jackson so pleased to be alongside these two in Reid and Brandel Chamblee as we kick off this final event of the season. It was lower than expected today, I think. We had a little bit of a breeze out there, but overall warm conditions and very gettable.
Yeah, it was. We were actually just talking about that. We are a little bit surprised by how low the scoring was. They have lengthened the course, we said earlier, from last year, and it didn't seem to protect the players from making a ton of birdies. I think it was definitely a little bit trickier this afternoon. The wind was swirling around a little bit more than it was this morning, which I think made it a little bit trickier for kind of the top players, and they got off to kind of a slow, sluggish start.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I thought mud balls were going to be a factor. They weren't. I thought the wind was going to be a bit of a factor. If you look at the top of this leaderboard, you think, well, was it just a perfect day out there with no wind? I mean, I think on the whole, the scores were much lower than I thought they were going to be. But just the big surprise, really, if you look at the top 10 in the world, the only two that didn't manage to break par were the top two players in the world, Lilia Fu and Nelly Korda at even par. By the last time I looked, they were tied for 49th. And that is a long way to come back. But, you know, player of the year last year and decided player of the year this year, it should be exciting if they do.
Yeah, well, we saw it at the top of the show there. Nelly Korda, she didn't have the day that she was after. She's looking for a record 8th win this week. She came back from injury last week at the Annika. She went straight back into the winner's circle with that 7th victory. But today wasn't quite the day for her, Mel, possibly especially on the greens. What did you notice from this even par opening round?
Yeah, very sluggish. I think, you know, she definitely had a little bit of a trickier conditions, but she'll still be very disappointed with that start. I think, you know, I think she had a very difficult day on the greens. You know, she had 32 putts today. I mean, that's never going to help your cause in shooting a low score, especially when the players are all going so low. But yeah, she's there now, just doing a little bit of range work. I would be on the putting green, but she knows what she's doing more than me. But yeah, I mean, she's working a little bit here on takeaway, and so something didn't quite feel right or didn't quite feel comfortable out there on the golf course. So she's just out there with Jamie Mulligan, her coach, and just trying to iron out a few things so that she can get off to a hot start tomorrow and get herself back into this tournament.
Yeah, this is a great drill, though. You know, she puts a ball down behind her club. A couple of things there that really stand out. If you go back to Jack Nicklaus, he always talked about the most important part of the golf swing was the first foot. So it's important to feel like it goes low and slow. I mean, when I've watched Nelly Korda do this in the past, the ball barely rolls, maybe 3-4 feet back behind her golf ball. So, I mean, I think that's a sort of a sign of the tempo or the speed with which she's taking the club back, trying to take it back in sort of one piece, which she does a great job. But, you know, sometimes when you don't play well, Mel, you know, as you go over, you know, you try to just go over and just sort of get back in a rhythm, give you something positive to end on. And I wouldn't be surprised when she cleans things up here. Yes, if she didn't go over to the putting green. I think she was a little bit put off her game by back-to-back 3 putts today at the 3rd and the 4th holes, and hit some close later on in the round and wasn't able to convert those. So just a sort of a balky day on the greens.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you don't have the start that you wanted or didn't play quite as well, didn't feel quite as comfortable, she's got a whole team there as well. So it's actually quite nice just to be on the range away from everybody, and you kind of just evaluate what your thoughts are, and you just take a minute and you just, you know, have a little bit of a breather. And you know what I love about Nelly is that she doesn't really do any complex drills. I think Jamie keeps it very simple with her, which I love. I mean, she's obviously got a beautiful golf swing, which we're going to go into, but you know, she's just trying to get a very simple feeling, like you said, going to bed, you know, eating a dinner tonight, just feeling a little bit more comfortable so that she can come out tomorrow and really shoot a low score, because she's going to have to get herself back into
That's one of my favorite things about Jamie Mulligan. He's not just all X's and O's. He teaches in a much more holistic way. He talks about balance off of the golf course, getting the right amount of sleep, having the right vision, breathing the right way, the whole thing. He talks so philosophically about it. And I'm sure, Mel, you've spent some time around him. You can't spend 5 minutes around him without coming away feeling better about yourself, about your golf game, enlightened by the teachers that he talks about. You know, we have a great tool this week out on the golf course, this 4D slow motion high capture video, and we were able to capture every swing in the field. You can take a look at her golf swing. You know, just a big, beautiful, wide turn. Mel, you talk about her flexibility. You can already see it right there. Her shoulders are already halfway back, turned 90 degrees. And watch at the top just how fully she turns her shoulders as she goes all the way to the top. Teachers would call this sort of thoracic extension. You'll get this sort of U look from her left hip all the way up to her right shoulder. But the one thing Mel, that I love is how their hips are angled downward. It's very easy to get to the top and your hips will be level, or even your left hip will be higher. What that allows you to do is dive into the ground and get all that pressure, and then look at that lag that she creates there.
I mean, her transition is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, if you're any kind of golf fan, you're a fan of Nelly Korda's golf swing. I mean, it's just poetic. But the transition at the top is so powerful, so strong. Like you said, she gets in that left side, which creates such big lags. Her shoulders are still behind with that big turn that she's got. And then, I mean, the impact position, with that left arm, we were talking about this as well,
yeah.
Getting away from the body, and that's why she creates so much power and speed in a golf swing.
Well, if you look at home run hitters, they'll have their left arm, if they're right-handed, they'll have their left arm off their body. It will be broken. That left elbow and the longest hitters is pointing at the target. It helps preserve sort of almost like a figure skater who's trying to twirl as fast as they can. If they let their arms go out, they're going to slow down. They bring them in, they're going to go faster. So, it helps, I think, maintain angular momentum, create faster angular momentum, and it is a commonality. And it's something, I think, high-speed capture video is enlightening the whole golf world. It's like when I was growing up, Mel, maybe you were the same, taught to have that left arm really straight at impact and the left elbow pointing at your left hip. Well, come to find out, almost nobody does that, and certainly not Nelly Korda.
No, it's not. I mean, I was even taught to keep my hips square on the way back. Which is
Were you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, that's how I suffered big back issues. It was just the coach at the time. But yeah, no, I was taught to kind of, that's how you create the X factor. That's how I was kind of growing up talking. And this is the complete opposite.
And don't you love how deep she gets into her right hip?
Yeah, and it's something that I constantly have to work on, is getting, really, really deep turn on the backswing into that kind of inside of the right foot so you don't sway. And she just does it so well. I mean, if you put force plates underneath her feet, I mean, her foot movement is pretty much perfect in the golf swing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to create power, I mean, obviously it helps to be as flexible as she does, but you've got to be able to get deep into that right hip. You got to make that huge turn, that left hip go all the way back. It's just really difficult if you don't get deep into that right hip to create enough power and enough turn to get the separation in the transition.
I mean, it helps as well with her height. She's not the shortest person out here on tour, and so she's got big levers as well, which, she's just built like an athlete, isn't she? She's built like if you were to draw up a professional golfer, this is exactly who you would draw up, is Nelly Korda, and the way that her body moves and her flexibility, like you said, her power. She uses every single bit of power that she has so efficiently, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's almost not fair.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at her power and flexibility, in terms of longevity, Brandel, how sustainable is a swing like this?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not any violence to this golf swing. You look at swings where there's not a lot of violence, and they are long, and they tend to endure. I think of Phil Mickelson, for sure. I think of Vijay Singh, for sure. You think about the fluidity of her golf swing, and you just don't see her running into too many injuries.
Yeah, she's out there with her team at the moment. We mentioned Jamie Mulligan, and we did mention as well earlier in the season, Mel, just about how close her team is and the bubble that she's created around her, and how much that has attributed to the success that we've seen this year. What can you tell us about that bubble around her?
Yeah, I mean, look, when Nelly Korda, #1 player in the world, you have a lot of noise around you. You have a lot of opinions, and so I think that she's really created this fantastic team around her who has her back, who knows her. She feels very safe, very comfortable around them. Even with Jason, her caddy, Jason, a great guy, and he's been with Nelly since pretty much day one, and I mean, their relationship is just incredible.